The fist came through darkness. Carl Henderson's right hand cut the midnight air, 16 ounces of leather wrapped around 220 pounds of professional violence. The glove whistled. 5 men stopped breathing. The Hollywood backlot smelled of dust and cracked paint from abandoned Western storefronts, the April wind carrying ghosts of 1,000 fake gunfights. Bruce Lee's head moved 3 inches. The punch died in empty space. Carl's momentum carried him forward, his shoulder rotating past the target that had simply vanished. Not a block, not a parry, just absence where a face should have been. The single work light overhead threw their shadows long and jagged across the dirt. Joey Mancini's jaw went slack. Ray Sullivan blinked twice, unsure what his eyes had just reported. Dominic Russo leaned forward, professional instincts screaming that something impossible had occurred. Tommy Riggs crossed his arms tighter, vindicated. James Coburn smiled against the fake saloon wall. Carl reset his stance, chest heaving though only seconds had passed. Bruce stood centered, hands loose at his sides, no triumph in his expression, just calm, just waiting. The big boxer threw again, a jab this time, faster, cleaner, and the night swallowed that punch too. 90 seconds earlier, Carl Henderson had been bouncing on the balls of his feet, 6'2" of coiled muscle and barely contained rage. His gloves tapped together in a rhythm that had preceded 24 knockouts. Leather cracked against leather in the Hollywood darkness. "You martial arts guys, you think you're so special." The words came out rough, edged with 8 years of professional violence. His shoulders rolled forward, thick with the kind of power that ended fights before the second round. Sweat already gleamed on his neck despite the cool April air. Bruce Lee stood 3 feet away, hands loose at his sides, palms open. His breathing made no sound. The work light cast his shadow small and thin against the dusty backlot wall. "I respect boxing." His voice carried no challenge, no fear. Some of the best hand technique in the world. Carl's lip curled. He stepped closer, gloves raised, the smell of worn leather mixing with night jasmine from somewhere beyond the abandoned storefronts. The witnesses, Joey, Ray, Dominic, Tommy, James, formed a silent half-circle, watching muscle confront stillness. "Then prove it." Bruce's hands dropped to his sides, and he stepped forward into range. 3 days earlier, Tommy Riggs had spoken 7 words that cracked Carl's world. "Bruce Lee could beat you, Carl." The gym had smelled of leather and sweat, familiar as breathing. Carl's knuckles had still burned from working the heavy bag. 28 wins, 3 losses, 24 knockouts, numbers that meant something. Tommy never joked about fighting. An actor, Carl's jaw had tightened, molars grinding. "You're serious." Tommy's weathered face stayed neutral. "Fastest hands I've ever seen, different animal." The words burrowed under Carl's ribs like body shots. An actor, some Hollywood guy who played pretend while Carl bled real blood in real rings. Impossible. Few could understand what that dismissal felt like to a man who'd built his identity on dominance, on the certainty that professional fighters lived in a different universe than movie stars. Carl made calls that night. Joey Mancini first, then Ray Sullivan, then Dominic Russo. Witnesses who knew the difference between cinema and violence. Midnight, backlot, keep it quiet. He arranged everything with the precision of a man who needed to prove the world still made sense. Boxing rules, 16-ounce gloves, no cameras, just truth under a single work light in the April darkness. But when James Coburn's Cadillac pulled up, engine ticking as it cooled, Carl saw something in Bruce Lee's eyes that made his certainty waver for the first time in 8 years. Carl's voice cut through the backlot silence like a contract being signed. "Boxing only, no kicks, no grappling, just hands." Bruce nodded once. "Give me gloves." The ease of it struck Carl wrong. No negotiation, no hesitation, no actor's excuses. Just agreement. Tommy Riggs knelt with the hand wraps, unrolling white cotton under the work light. He took Bruce's right hand first, small, compact, but when he wound the fabric tight and felt the structure beneath, it was like wrapping stones, dense beyond proportion. The bones felt closer to the surface than any fighter's hands he'd touched in 30 years of cornering. Iron wrapped in silk, he'd tell people later, though even that phrase couldn't quite capture it. Carl bounced on his toes, throwing combinations into empty air. Jab jab cross, hook to the body. The leather gloves whistled, professional rhythm. 8 years of ring time expressed in perfect shadow boxing. His shoulders rolled, weight transferred, feet sliding across dust-covered asphalt with the precision of countless training rounds. Bruce stood motionless, hands wrapped, breathing so quietly it disappeared beneath the sound of Carl's exertion. The contrast carved itself into the watching men's memories, but what unsettled them most was this. While Carl demonstrated power, Bruce's stillness felt like a coiled spring measuring exactly when to release. The work light carved a circle of yellow against the backlot darkness. Dust hung in the glow like suspended ash. Carl stepped forward, 6'2", 220 pounds of professional muscle. His shoulders filled the light, broad, sloped from years of slipping punches. 8 years in the ring, 28 wins, reach like a heavyweight's whip. Bruce moved into the circle opposite him. The size difference struck every witness at once. Bruce's frame looked carved from something denser than bone, but smaller, compact. Carl's gloved hands seemed twice the circumference. His thighs were tree trunks beside Bruce's lean legs. Joey leaned close to Ray, breath hot with cheap cigars. "This won't last long." Dominic checked his watch. The second hand ticked through the silence, loud as a metronome counting down to something inevitable. Carl rolled his neck. The sound cracked through the night air, professional, experienced, every advantage measurable, undeniable, height, weight, power, years of men falling under those gloves and across from him. Bruce stood loose, hands at his sides, breathing so shallow his chest barely moved. James Coburn leaned against the fake saloon wall 20 feet away, arms crossed, face half-shadowed, smiling, not nervous, not worried. Smiling like a man watching a magic trick he'd already seen, and the others hadn't. The noise stopped, Carl's feet planted, the bouncing ceased, Bruce's subtle swaying stilled. Two men became statues under the work light, separated by 6 feet of dust and intention. Silence. Carl's chest rose, fell, rose again. Each breath audible, hungry, pushing through his nostrils like steam from a locomotive. His gloves hung at guard position, leather creaking with the tension in his forearms. Bruce's chest didn't move. Or moved so slightly the shadows couldn't catch it. His hands floated near his hips, relaxed, fingers barely curled inside the 16-ounce gloves. The leather looked oversized on his wrists. They measured. Carl's eyes tracked Bruce's center line, calculating the jab distance he'd crossed 10,000 times in 8 professional years. Bruce's gaze remained steady, unfocused, seeing everything by seeing nothing specific. Wind pushed through the fake Western storefronts behind them. A tin sign creaked. Dust spiraled across floorboards that had never known a real saloon. From the Hollywood Hills, a coyote howled. Long, primal, alone, Tommy Riggs stepped forward. His hand rose between them, fingers splayed against the darkness. His hand dropped. Fight. Carl's lead foot surged forward, and Bruce's rear foot slid back. Carl's lead foot swept forward, pivoting sharp. Jab snapped out, jab again, then the cross straight down the center line, professional, perfect. Bruce's head moved 3 inches left, right, left again. Air whistled past his cheekbone. Carl reset faster now, circling with 8 years of ring discipline carved into muscle memory. His right hand cocked back, power hook committed fully, shoulder rotating through the arc. Bruce dropped, not away, under. Carl's fist sailed over empty space, and before he could pull back his guard, thud, 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 3 shots hammered into his ribs. Short, compact, no windup visible. Carl's elbows crashed down to protect, textbook defensive reflex. But Bruce was already gone, then back inside, landing 2 more body shots between heartbeats. The leather smacked dull against muscle. Dust rose from their shuffling feet, hanging in the work light like suspended smoke. Carl threw combinations. Bruce slipped through gaps that shouldn't exist. 60 seconds. Carl's shoulders burned. His jab found nothing but the sweat-thick air. Bruce came up under his guard again, 2 rapid strikes to the solar plexus. 90 seconds. Carl's mouth hung open, sucking wind. His gloves dropped an inch. Bruce stood 3 feet away, hands still loose at his sides, and Carl realized with creeping horror the man hadn't thrown a single punch at his head. Carl lunged forward, arms wrapping around Bruce's smaller frame, a desperate clinch, the oldest instinct in fighting. His 220 pounds crashed down, seeking to smother, to trap. Bruce didn't resist. He flowed inward instead, spine bending like bamboo in wind. Carl felt the shift too late. 6 short punches hammered his ribs during the embrace, each one delivered from impossible angles. The gloves found spaces between Carl's arms under his guard against his floating ribs. The impacts felt like pistons firing in rapid succession. Thud, 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 thud. They separated. Carl dropped his hands. His chest heaved, pulling air that tasted of dust and defeat. The word came out quiet, barely audible over the wind moving through the fake Western storefronts. Timeout. Dominic's watch clicked in the silence. 97 seconds. Few professional fighters could admit what Carl said next. I'm not winning this. His voice carried no anger, only stunned honesty. 31 fights, never felt speed like this. Bruce's breathing remained calm, unchanged. You're excellent, he said, hands loose at his sides, but you've only fought boxers who follow patterns. Carl blinked sweat from his eyes. Your opponents wind up before they strike, Bruce continued, stepping closer. They telegraph. You read the setup, defend the pattern. His right hand suddenly appeared 6 inches from Carl's jaw. No preparation, no warning, just there. I don't wind up, the hand withdrew. I start from wherever I am. Carl stared at the space where the fist had materialized. His mind raced through 8 years of training, every combination drill, every sparring session, all built on reading what came before the punch. But what if there was no before? Carl's voice cracked. How are you this fast? Not a question, a confession. Bruce wiped sweat from his brow, the glove leather squeaking against his temple. I don't wind up, don't telegraph. I start from wherever my hand is. The words hung in the dusty air between them. Simple, revolutionary. Carl's jaw worked, processing. 8 years of training, dismantled by a single principle. Can you teach me that? Bruce tilted his head, studying Carl's stance even now, the way his weight distributed across both feet. I'll teach you, he paused, then smiled, if you teach me your footwork. It's better than mine, the admission landed like a body blow. Few could understand what passed between them in that moment, not submission, not victory, something rarer, mutual respect forged in honest combat. Carl straightened, extended his gloved hand. Bruce gripped it. They held the connection, then bowed. Joey's mouth hung open. Ray gripped Dominic's shoulder. Tommy Riggs exhaled slowly through his nose. James Coburn pushed off the weathered saloon wall, arms uncrossing. They had witnessed something that would echo far beyond this midnight backlot, but none of them, not even Bruce, could imagine how far Carl's fists would carry this lesson into the world. 13 months, 8 opponents, 8 canvas stains. Carl Henderson's gloves tasted different now, leather mixed with something sharper, more precise. His jab no longer announced itself with shoulder roll or weight shift. It simply appeared, a straight line from rest to target, the way Bruce had shown him under that midnight work light. Philadelphia, Detroit, Chicago, Las Vegas, first round, first round, first round, first round. The reporters swarmed after the 8th knockout, microphones thrust forward like weapons, camera flashes bleaching the locker room white. Sweat pooled at Carl's collarbone, dripped onto the concrete floor. What changed, Carl? He unwrapped his hands slowly, feeling the damp tape pull away from skin. Bruce Lee showed me boxing is perfect for boxing, he said, but fighting requires more. A reporter leaned closer. Are you saying boxing isn't enough? I'm saying he didn't disrespect it. Carl's voice dropped, reverent. He completed it. The quote ran in every sports section from New York to Lowe's Angels. Tommy Riggs fielded calls from a dozen gyms asking about this Lee character. Boxers started showing up at Bruce's door, gloves in hand, egos checked. Integration didn't announce itself with fanfare. It arrived through Carl's fists, validated, undeniable, spreading like wildfire through every training gym that valued truth over tradition.